All right, so you have your customers that love you, past or present. How many of you have customer testimonials from them? Awesome. How many have video testimonials from them? That's a lot. That's fantastic. I know you do. So I just think that it adds a different level of authenticity. Let's be honest. Most of us can write our own testimonials about ourselves, right? Put them on our website. This product changed my life, Bob from Tennessee. We can do that. I think that it adds some authenticity when you have the person's name, if you can trace it back to someone, name, last name, their company. I think that helps a lot. Testimonials are super helpful, and there's a lot of ways to do them. I feel like we found what works for us, and again, it's only my perspective and the perspective of our team, but I want to share you what we did for our advisory customers. And so every time we close an advisory deal, we help take companies to market through Line 5 advisors, and afterwards we always try to get a testimonial to share. Here's what we did from one of ours.
For me, working with John and Chad, it was all about the conversation and all about their encouragement when I didn't quite see where we were headed, and also when I got overzealous about where we were headed, they were always good to say, hey, let's make sure we know where we are, and that timing can change, and that we don't control the world. All we can do is control the story. And so they were just great at sort of, I hate to say it, but I had to be handheld through the situation. It was the first business I'd ever sold, and Chad and John were just great at understanding that, seeing the bigger picture, and helping me through it.
So that's a piece of it. I'd say that was probably 45 seconds of the minute and a half. They don't have to be very long, right? A couple decisions that we made creatively here. Number one, he is not looking at the camera, he's looking off camera. It's probably the first creative decision you have to make. And you can do testimonials yourself, and I'll give you some tips to that. I always think it's better to look off camera. Look at whoever they're speaking to as opposed to in. When you're looking in the camera, you just feel a little bit like a spokesperson, right? You really want your audience to feel like they dropped in on a conversation and they're picking up information. And then the second thing you have to decide is music, right? I actually owned the Milli Vanilli tape back in the day. It was like the first tape. It's sad what happened to those guys. So music. We don't use music for our advisory testimonials. And why? Because the exit is a pretty significant event in the life of an entrepreneur. The last thing you want them to feel is if you're trying to manipulate them. And I think a lot of times these are dictated by industry, okay, and who's going to see them. So we want ours to be as stripped down as possible. Literally a name in the beginning, white font over black text with their name, and then we go into the story, and if there needs to be text in between, incredibly simple and pared down. These should not be high production value under almost any circumstance. So sometimes you may want to use music because sometimes it'll feel a little bit stale without it. And we got to work with the team from Hyler Painting. Appo's in the back here. And so in their case, they do a beautiful job of painting homes, and so it seemed to fit. So let's watch a little bit of that.
The house was built in 1880. We bought it and it was pretty derelict and needed some love. I actually made a whole list of what I was looking for in painters, sent it to the Hyler Painting Group. They were careful about their workers and they were careful about the environment, and those were two really big things for me. They're easy to get a hold of. Email, text messaging, they respond more promptly than prompt. It makes me happy, it makes me smile. It was a big job. It was a huge job. If you want a group that's filled with integrity and care for your property, I would definitely choose Hyler again. They were very easy to work with. It was just like we were meant to be together with this house.
So you might be wondering, why am I giving you so many really technical specifics about how to do these testimonials? You might be saying, look, I run a company, I have people I'm going to delegate this to, I don't need to know all this. Well, Spielberg really, really wisely said one time, he's like, look, I don't have to know how to use all the equipment on my film set, but I need to know exactly what I want it to produce. So you're the director of your own story if you are running the company, regardless of who you're going to delegate the task to go out and get these made. Just know exactly what you want. And I really think if you do avoid that direct eye contact and really be smart about whether or not you use music, remember, less is more on these things. Don't make people feel like they're being manipulated. Okay? Yes?
Actually, I have a quick question about the testimonials. Do you ever suggest coaching them into what questions you want answered, like giving them a pre-written questionnaire and seeing how they rate
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's how do you coach them? So if you were doing it as a company, if you were going to talk, and we're going to talk about that, I'm going to address that in just a second, okay? That is the next slide, actually. All right. So this is something you can do yourself. My opinion is, if you own the relationship, it's a little weird to sit across from someone and say, tell me how great I am. Right? I saw this and I was like, that is exactly right. Right? Like you go in, you set up your phone, you sit across, and all right, how great am I? How great did we do for you? Right? I'm not saying you can't do it yourself. And we're going to get into a little bit later kind of specifics on how to really optimize that phone that we all have in our pocket as a video production tool and some audio tricks. But it's just weird when you own that relationship, unless you're that tight that you feel like you can say, I would just train somebody up in the organization how to do it and just send them and ask the questions. But a lot of times, to answer your question, I don't prep people a whole lot. You know, I would rather get authentic answers, knowing, like we just worked with Joe upstairs telling his story. We did no prep. People typically know what they want to say, right? And so when you prep them too much, you get things that feel very stiff. I always feel like if you don't do too much prep, then you're probably going to miss out maybe on 10% of the story, but the 90% that you get is going to feel so much more authentic. And so you just go in and have a conversation. And then the other thing that I find out that people do a lot is they're like, hey, I want to make testimonials. If I give you 1 or 2 months of free service, or we take this much off your bill, will you do it? I think that is an awful approach. Here's how you do it better. Go to these customers who we've already determined love you, right? Let's start on the basis of love. They love you. You're going to them for a reason. Just say, hey, we want to start highlighting some of our great customer relationships. And honestly, when I thought about it, you were the first one that came to mind. And we want to put these up on our website. And our website gets this many views if you have any analytics. Would you mind if we send somebody out to your office for 15 minutes just to ask you a couple questions about why this has worked out? If they love you, are they going to say no? I mean, 15 minutes? If they do say no, they probably don't love you.